Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining Sophisticated John. We are glad to come to you today to talk about something that I think is very much an interesting topic of discussion, especially considering the time of year. What
Mm.
up, Johnsky?
What up?
So, oftentimes, especially in both of our professions, we deal with people who may experience some level of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Mm. I think you and I talked about this a long time ago. I read it in an article where it said that women are less likely to apply for a job if they don't meet every single one of the requirements that are listed, whereas a man is more likely to apply for a position if he only meets one of the things listed. So what
If
do you
that,
think
right.
about that? If that, right. Listen, just because I want it, I'm gonna apply. What do you think about
Exactly.
that?
Exactly. I think yeah, thinking about my own trajectory and kind of developing a level of confidence over the years, um I did experience a time where I would not either apply for a role or position or be afraid to ask for a raise. I think I never thought about it because of my particular gender identity, but I always thought about, I guess it was a matter of the imposter syndrome of feeling like, oh, but am I qualified enough? Am I good enough? Do I belong in this space? Will people listen to me?
Mhm,
And I do feel like stages in my life as each decade passed, it was a shift in my confidence, my personality, and my just willingness to kind of push forward and try things that I
mhm,
probably would not have tried when I was younger. So I got to a point where it was like, okay, what the worst they can say is no. But if I don't ask, if I don't try, then
mhm,
I will never know. And I think the first time I was like, oh, I'm going to say the thing. I'm going to say the thing. And the person's response was like, huh, okay. I hadn't thought about that. I appreciate your perspective. And I was just like,
mhm,
oh, people
mhm,
do listen to what I have to say. People
mhm,
do care about, what I have to contribute. So it's been an interesting ride. I can't necessarily pinpoint like what it was that
mhm,
shifted my perspective other than just time and experience. But I did feel a shift. I would say in
mhm,
my professional life. My personal life, I think it happened a little bit sooner, but in my professional
mhm.
life, it took me some time to get there. How about you?
Yeah, I think that I still experience it a little bit
Mhm. Mhm.
because of the industry and the people that you end up in meetings with that are
Yeah.
tapping into you for your expertise. And it's like you have a moment, right? You have a moment where you're like, I don't know that I'm the expert. I will
Right.
say, I definitely 1000% feel imposter syndrome being a mom. Let's just say that. So
Mm.
separate from a career,
Yeah.
I be like, fortunately, my child does not talk yet, but when she does and says, "Mom, I'm gonna call my mom and be like, I think that she's looking for you." No, oh, me? Oh, no, so 'cause I wasn't ready. Because you think like, "What experience do I have that I could, like, mother this being?" But
Mhm.
anyway, that's separate and apart from the career aspect of it. So in a lot of ways, you focus on the areas where you feel like you don't know
Mhm.
versus keying in on those areas where you really do know and you
Right.
have that experience. And I think if we shift that perspective, then we'll find ourselves feeling, to your point, more confident
Yeah.
in what we can do and our abilities. I will also say that those times where folks are like, asking me for my input and then their response after I give it, it's like, "Oh, alright, I do know what I'm talking about a little
A
bit."
little something, a little
Okay,
something.
I just saying, okay. But it does attack you in different ways.
Yeah.
Being a thinker, an
Mhm.
overthinker, there are times where I might recall a statement I made, I'm like, "Oh, I could have said this, or I could
Yeah.
have added this or whatever," and it's like, "No, it's okay." Like, present the information as you have it and
Mhm.
trust that you know what you know.
Mhm.
But definitely focusing on so, like, I've my example of how sometimes we can zero in on those small areas where we can improve versus the areas where we thrive is imagine a picture pictures are made up of tiny pixels, right?
Mhm.
I will talk for myself. I will focus on that one pixel,
Yeah.
and that thing look I magnify it like it is the picture.
Yeah.
And sometimes I go down a rabbit hole. I know y'all. I be saying I be down a rabbit. I be down that hole. Okay, I be down the rabbit hole a lot. Like I just fall, like just Alice in Wonderland, just down there. And but then when I have a moment, I'm like, hold on, and I zoom out, and you're able to see that full picture. That's where you put things into perspective, and
Mm.
it makes it better, and then you feel more confident because everybody has those small areas where they
Mhm.
could improve. Nobody's perfect.
Right.
Nobody has it together 100%. I don't care which way they're trying to present it. I don't care about the um facade they're putting on. Everybody has something.
Mhm.
But we definitely see it. And the other part of it that I think adds to imposter syndrome is social media.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
are able to present a narrative,
Mhm.
and then those people that are really trying and really working on themselves, it's like if you try to compare yourself with what someone else has going on, oh man, you're gonna be all over the place.
Yeah,
You
definitely,
know?
definitely. Um, you made me think of a couple of things. One thing I settled into for myself was being okay with being wrong or not having all the answers. I think
Mhm.
that freed me from a lot.
Mhm.
And when I like the first time I had to tell someone, "Oh, I don't have the answer to that, but I can get it
Mhm.
for you," or
Mhm.
"That's a great question. I don't
Mhm.
have the great answer. Just give me a
Mhm.
moment to research." Like
Right.
just being okay with I'm not AI.
Mhm.
I don't have all of
Right.
the answers stuffed in my brain that I can just compute out as soon as you enter your prompt. Like I
Mhm.
know that being able to lean into what you do know does
Mhm.
also require you to recognize what you don't
What you don't. Yep.
and being comfortable with that. Like one thing I find too, especially in the work that I do, is like recognizing people's humanity in the people in the room who have a particular expertise that it might be different from mine
Mhm.
can lean into that. That is their strength.
Mhm.
But I also have strengths. But
Mhm.
we, as you mentioned, we all have something we can work towards or work on. And
Mhm.
if you want to consider that a weakness,
Mhm.
I also think about um, how imposter syndrome relates to that inner critic
Mhm.
that tells us
Mhm.
it eats away at the things that we're thinking or things that we're presented with and tries to tell us something that is a false narrative
Mhm.
based on our current situation. So being able to recognize, okay, the things that I'm hearing in my head about whatever it is I'm going through, that's
Mhm.
not reality.
Mm.
The reality is XYZ. The
Mhm.
reality is I'm pretty good at what I do. The
Mhm.
reality is I can recognize my weaknesses, but build upon my strengths. The reality
Mhm.
is my weakness might be someone else's strength, and me
Mhm.
being able to kind of shoulder that load
Mhm.
makes both of our efforts even more successful and easier on the both of
Mhm.
us. So
Mhm.
being able to kind of lean into that and to others, I
Mhm.
think helps to work around that idea of imposter syndrome. And I know there are like systemic issues that create environments that cause people to feel imposter because if there were
Mhm.
more people that looked like me in a space or
Mhm.
had a similar expertise as me or had a similar background or whatever it is that may fill a room to make someone feel like they belong, that's a
Mhm.
systematic thing. Like I get
Mhm.
that. But
Mhm.
also a lot of times being able to recognize that I am more than
Mhm.
my where I lack. I am
Mhm.
more than my weakness. I am more than an area that is not I'm not a expert in.
Mhm.
Really allows us the opportunity to flourish in the things that we are good at. So, or it gives us the space and ability to strengthen those weaknesses. Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to just leave my weaknesses where they are. Like, that's an
Mhm.
opportunity for growth. That's an opportunity for me to explore if it's something I want to explore, or if it's
Right.
something I'm like, that's your area. I'm gonna leave that to you
Right.
instead.
And that's okay. The other part of it is feeling like you need to know everything. Like you
Right.
said, this is just
Mhm.
resting and knowing that you don't know everything, and that's
Exactly.
okay.
Mhm.
Um, but even at work, I think you and I have both experienced people that feel like they need to prove that they know everything, and
Right.
sometimes it doesn't come off great because you don't know
No.
everything, and we can tell you
No.
don't know everything.
Yeah.
But it
Mm.
also shows some level of humility when you acknowledge, "Hey, I don't know everything, but I'm willing to be open to learn. Ooh, that Wi-Fi is doing something. Mm,
It cleared up. It cleared up.
praise the Lord."
We are not AI. We are a
We are
subscriber to our
not,
Wi-Fi.
right. I'm just saying because I feel like I need to keep moving my head to make sure that I am working here. My goodness, this is awful. Anyway, no, I agree. I think yeah, I think leaning in I've actually read that book, Lean In. There we go. It is what is happening? What's
It's
going on here?
hilarious. Your voice is clear though, even though
Praise the
whatever might be
Lord.
going on.
I think leaning in is something that is most important, for all of us. And I've read
Mhm.
that book, and there were definitely things in that book I was like, "Yes."
Yeah.
Definitely it and it pretty much said what you said, leaning in and owning all of who
Mhm.
you are and the knowledge that you have. I quit. I quit. I don't wanna do it.
I
I don't wanna do
can't.
it. What is going on? I don't know. I'm the only person
Mhm.
that's on the Wi-Fi. I'm
The
sorry.
Wi-Fi is a heater, that's all, that's all.
Super hater. That means I'm saying something amazing that people need to hear.
Right, exactly,
Just
exactly.
saying, just saying. Check your Wi-Fi. Don't be
Right,
like me.
right, oh my
I got
goodness.
dial-up. I got dial-up.
Not do 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 do.
Remember AOL Messenger?
Yes. Man, you're just sitting there waiting like, "Imma get on one of these days. Get into my chat room." Oh, Lord. Oh, my Lord,
I
let's
remember
not.
the first time I went in the chat room and someone put LOL. I said, "What does LOL mean?" And then someone said, "Send a pic." And I said, "What does pic mean?" I didn't know what pic
No.
I didn't
No,
know.
my
I
lord.
had
Oh, my
never
goodness.
been in, like, a chat room, so they would and you remember you could see when people exited the chat, they would exit because I
Yes.
didn't. I didn't even know. Like, I was just I randomly got in there one day and I was like, "What's this?" Just poking around. They're like, "What who is this idiot on the
I
other side of
can't.
the"
I can't. Oh my goodness.
No one
Oh
was
my
meeting up with me to try to steal me at all because I
god.
wouldn't let no one.
I don't know how this works. Get me
Mm-mm, this
out of
ain't what
here.
you mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. Yeah, so but we see that I even see it at the higher levels. And the
Yeah.
other thing is when you realize that
Mhm.
the people that you're at the table with, whether at your level or not, aren't as bright as you think they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Gives
Yeah.
you a boost of confidence because 'cause you're like, "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about."
But you know what's interesting about that is on several occasions, I have heard people say to me, and this is related, unrelated, that especially when it comes to like people having a personality type that's difficult,
Mhm,
or they challenge people in a way that makes people uncomfortable. They say, "Well, this so and so is so brilliant that,
mhm,
and now I understand people being on a spectrum,
mhm,
and that might be something that I'm not aware of, and
mhm,
they're, stretching the idea of personality type and, levels of intelligence. I get that that happens.
mhm.
Howsoever, that doesn't mean that people can't be talked to
Mhm,
and made aware of how they come off or treat people.
mhm.
Also, for the people who are not on the spectrum, who are just being a-holes, um,
Mm,
in their personality and lean into the idea that they might have a level of education or went to a particular school, that they
mhm,
think that that means something.
mhm,
Um, I personally value emotional intelligence
mhm, mhm,
over
mhm,
your academic portfolio.
mhm,
Honestly,
mhm,
if you can't apply what you know academically,
mhm,
in a way that gets to be able to stretch across
mhm,
understanding. Now,
mhm,
I mean, that can go on. I can go on tangents in any direction with that. But like, if you are just so up here
mhm,
that, like, you require people to jump through hoops to get to where you are,
mhm,
I don't find that
mhm.
to be intelligent.
No,
I mean,
no.
I can understand what you're saying, I can process what you're saying,
Yeah.
but, I'm not allowing, your I even think it's in some degree your attempt to invalidate others,
Mhm.
but also put yourself on a pedestal to, I don't know, whatever it is that you think you're doing. That's not happening over here. So I think that
Mhm.
that too can put pressure on individuals in spaces and make them feel like, oh my goodness, this person is so intelligent. I don't belong in the same space as them.
In some way, but in some cases, they're insecure. That's why
Yeah,
they're doing that,
yeah,
and they don't want you to really see who they are because they're not confident in their ability. I find that true leaders and people who are really at that level have 0 issue with
right.
having those conversations and
Mhm.
helping you learn and grow to get to that next level. Those that try to keep you at the same level or
Right.
try to keep you in one sort of space, that's
Mhm.
because they're afraid of you surpassing them.
Right.
That
Right.
and what's interesting is that happens not just professionally, but in your
Mhm.
personal life too.
Yes,
How
indeed.
many of us have had experiences, just in our personal life, irrespective of category of person, where
Mhm.
people try to or a person tries to keep you at a certain level to
Mhm.
maintain their authority or um status
Right.
over you and
Mhm.
because it makes them feel good.
Yeah. 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 I don't like that.
No,
I
and
don't
it's
and
not
I don't understand
necessary.
that. It's
Yeah, you
not.
don't understand it because you're not an insecure person.
Right.
So, but someone that's insecure
Yeah.
feels like and all you need is one person to validate that insecurity to make
Right.
you feel like what you're doing is right, so then
Right.
you move forward with it.
Right. I think that takes us back to a previous conversation where people are in competition by themselves because we're not
Mhm.
even realizing that
Yeah.
that is what is happening.
Right.
And I guess that also relates to the people we were just discussing, that they're in some type of competitive space where
Mhm.
the smarter you are, the better you look, or the smarter
Mhm.
you are, the better you look,
Mhm.
or the more education you have, the more value you bring to a room.
Mhm.
And in some ways, that could be the case, but
Yeah.
education could also be defined in different ways. So I think that that's part of the systems that are in place that make
Mhm.
people,
Mhm.
like ourselves or others
Mhm.
feel like they are an imposter
Mhm.
because of the value that is placed based on academic pedigree or whatever you wanna call it. Um
Well, we both know people with degrees that don't know jack.
Right, absolutely.
One comes to mind right now and can't string together a sentence to save their life.
Oh,
So
Lord, now you gotta
that
text me
does
later and tell me who that
no,
is.
right. But it doesn't because there are some people that are good at BSing or
Yeah.
cheating to get through school or whatever.
Yeah,
So it doesn't necessarily correlate to intelligence. It could just
right,
mean that you made a way out of, you know, you made friends enough to be able to pass through
right,
school. You know what I mean?
mm,
So it is or the perception of material things,
right,
especially again on social media. So because of these material things, the thought is that you have achieved this or whatever.
right,
Meanwhile, behind the scenes, this person,
struggling.
excuse me, is doing all kind of crazy stuff to get these things or is
Mhm,
borrowed or whatever, and you
right,
don't even know.
yeah,
So it definitely it's all about perception,
yeah,
whether right or wrong. But when you have a conversation with someone, that's when you find out the real deal. And
right,
that's when you get to see who they are. I mean, I sadly have had experiences twice
mm,
where someone I reported to was trying to keep me at a certain
oh,
level so that they would not and I would not surpass them, or at least in their mind. And
right.
that is hard to deal with. That's very, very hard to deal with and very hurtful.
If true leaders understand that the people who grow underneath them allow them the opportunity to grow. So
Mhm.
if I'm here and the person that reports to me is here,
Mhm.
if I stay here and don't
Mhm.
give them an opportunity to get here,
Mhm.
then there's nowhere else for me to go because I'm too busy worrying about what's right here.
Yep.
But the more they grow, the more I can grow. The more they grow, the more I can grow. And it just presents opportunities to the both of us. So that selfishness
Mhm.
of, wanting to keep a person in a particular space or place because they
Yeah.
don't meet the criterion that you think you've decided is
Mhm.
important, um, for their particular growth because you haven't done this or because
Mhm.
you don't know this or how is
Mhm.
someone supposed to know and grow if we keep them in the space that they are? And I think
Yeah.
that's problematic too, definitely.
Yeah, and it's an insecurity.
Yeah.
It is, because
Yeah.
if I promote you to this position that I used to have and you
Mhm.
do better than what I did, then
Right.
that's, in their mind, they believe that's showing, something that, an inadequacy or something like that,
Right.
where I did not do this at this level, but you did, so now I'm viewed as less than, when that's not the case. You and I
Mhm.
could both get the same task. We're going to do it differently because our
Very different.
brains are different. That's
Right.
just the reality of it. It doesn't
Right.
mean that your result is better than mine. It just means that our results are different. And
Right.
guess what? There's value in both of them. But that is the
Mhm.
problem. People are so afraid of someone doing something at a quote unquote better level than them, that you don't want them to be able to do that. And that's
Mhm.
the fear. So it is it's, you're being insecure. That's just
Yeah.
it. Here's the thing.
Mhm.
If I want to continue to grow, I can't keep doing the things that I'm doing right now. I have to be
Mhm.
able to operate on a different level. So if that's the case, then you need to come along and do these things. And guess what? If you do it better, great. That's wonderful,
Right.
because because then
Exactly.
we're getting to, we're pushing whatever it is that we're working on, whether it's the organization, company, or whatever, to the next level, because it's at that level. These things are getting
Yeah.
done more efficiently.
Yeah. That made me also think about, like, peer support, like, people who are already on the same as them, but they don't reach out. You have an area of expertise because of that
Mhm,
insecurity. If I ask Tiffany for help, she'll know
mhm,
that I,
mhm,
able to and I think that is kinda silly too. I've had to express to
mhm,
folks, like, your win is a win for the both of us. Like, you being
mhm,
able to navigate a space, and if I can help you along the way, like, I am not selfish enough that I'm gonna say I'm going to keep all of the knowledge that I have and not
mhm,
share that it can support because they will reap it. Like, that is
mhm,
like being able to allow pull from you and learn from you in ways that will help them already on the same is important to me as, helping people who and for the flip side of that, like having management or someone over me who doesn't just always express, how wonderful I am, clearly
mhm.
wonderful, but also kind of shares with me areas of growth. Like, if
Mhm,
I don't see those opportunities because of my vantage point, then please point them out to me so that I
yeah,
can also grow. And
mhm,
I think that it does people a disservice when it's like, "Oh, you're great. Okay, you're telling me
mhm.
something I know. Tell me something I don't know,"
Right.
right?
Mhm. Because you wanna grow, and people are so
Yeah,
used to getting a participation trophy that they're not open
right,
to healthy criticism. So,
right.
uh, I'm curious, from our listeners, whenever you all hear this, share with us some moments that maybe you've experienced imposter syndrome, or you've experienced someone trying to, um, stifle your growth. We'd love
Mhm.
to hear from you, certainly.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
I don't think so other than like and subscribe so that you can catch us for the next live.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining. We'll see you next time.
Until next time.